Okay, right now, wherever you are, just do me a quick favor. Take a big, deep breath in and let it all out. Feels good, right? Well, you just did something incredibly complicated, and you didn't even have to think about it. Today, we're going to follow that single breath and unpack its amazing journey. Think about it. You do this about 16 times every single minute of every hour of every day. It's probably the most constant, automatic thing your body does. But what is actually going on inside you with every one of those breaths? Let's dive in and find out. All right, here's our game plan. We'll start with how our body does this on autopilot, what I call the unthinking action. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty mechanics of how we breathe. After that, we'll zoom way in for the great gas exchange, see how oxygen gets delivered around the body, and finally, we'll look at what happens when this amazing system comes under threat.
First up, let's talk about the fact that you don't have to keep a sticky note on your desk that says, "Remember to breathe." Your body is running this incredibly sophisticated program in the background, 24/7, keeping you alive. It's the ultimate autopilot.
Now, the technical term for the whole mechanical part of breathing is ventilation, and it's a two-way street, right? It's not just about getting the good stuff, oxygen, in. It's also about getting the waste product, carbon dioxide, out. In and out, a constant, vital cycle. So, how does that air actually get into your lungs? Well, you can think of your chest cavity kind of like an old-fashioned bellows for a fireplace. It has to expand to suck air in and then shrink to push it out. Except, instead of handles, your body uses this brilliant system of muscles and bone. And this is where it gets really cool. Look at the difference between breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in, or inspiration, is an active process. Your muscles have to work. Your diaphragm contracts and flattens, your rib cage moves out, you're actively creating space. But breathing out, expiration, it's almost entirely passive. The muscles just relax. Everything returns to its resting state and the air is gently pushed out. All the effort is on the inhale. The exhale is just letting go. So, let's just walk through that one more time. Muscles contract, your chest gets bigger, the pressure inside drops, and boom, air rushes in to fill the space. Then everything just relaxes, the space gets smaller, and the air gets pushed back out. It's this beautiful, simple system based on pure physics, and it's powering your life right now. Okay, the air is officially in the building, but just getting it into the lungs isn't enough, not even close. Now comes the most important part, getting the oxygen from that air into your bloodstream. This is where the real magic happens, deep inside your lungs. The action happens in these things called alveoli. They're these millions and millions of tiny, microscopic air sacs. I mean, if you could somehow flatten them all out, they'd cover the size of a tennis court. This is the final destination for the air you breathe, and it's the critical border crossing where air finally meets your blood. And it's really important to know that respiration happens in two stages. First, there's external respiration. That's what we're talking about right now, the big gas swap in your lungs. But the whole reason for that is to set up internal respiration, which is when your body's cells actually use that oxygen to create energy. One is useless without the other. So how does oxygen know to jump into the blood? And how does carbon dioxide know to jump out? Well, it's not magic, it's just physics. The whole thing is driven by a concept called partial pressure. The easiest way to think about it is like a really crowded room next to an empty hallway. What happens when you open the door? People naturally move from the crowded area to the less crowded one. Gases do the exact same thing. Let's look at the numbers for oxygen. The air that just arrived in your lungs has an oxygen pressure of about 104, but the blood that's showing up to meet it, its oxygen pressure is only 40. Nature sees that difference, and the oxygen just tumbles down that slope, effortlessly moving from the high-pressure lungs into the low-pressure blood. And for carbon dioxide, it's the exact same story, just in reverse. Your blood arrives carrying all this waste CO2 at a pressure of 46. The air in your lungs, though, is only at 40. So what happens? The carbon dioxide happily flows down its pressure gradient right out of the blood and into the lungs, all ready to be exhaled. It's so elegant! Fantastic! We've captured the oxygen, it's officially in the bloodstream. But now, it needs a ride. It can't just float around on its own. It needs a dedicated transport system, like a fleet of microscopic delivery trucks to get it to every last cell in your body. And that delivery truck is a superstar molecule called hemoglobin. It's packed into your red blood cells, it's what makes your blood red, and its one and only job is to be the body's ultimate oxygen taxi service. It grabs O2 in the lungs and hangs on tight until it gets to a cell that needs it. Now, Getting the trash out, that carbon dioxide, is a little more clever. A little bit of it just dissolves in the blood, and some of it hitches a ride on hemoglobin. But the vast majority, a whopping 85%, actually gets chemically converted into something called bicarbonate ions for the trip back. It's like a clever disguise that allows the blood to carry way more of it safely back to the lungs. So who's the conductor for this incredible orchestra of muscles, pressures, and molecules? It's a tiny command center in your brainstem called the respiratory center. It's constantly listening to your body, checking CO2 and oxygen levels, and adjusting your breathing speed without you ever having to think about it. It really is the perfect autopilot. And sometimes, that autopilot has to hit the emergency override button. Take a sneeze, for example. It's just your respiratory system's way of violently clearing out irritants. And get this, a sneeze has been clocked at up to 165 kilometers per hour. That's literally highway speed. Now, that powerful sneeze is a protective reflex, and it's designed to keep the whole system clean and working properly. But for that protection to work, the system itself has to be healthy. So, what happens when this perfectly tuned, finely balanced system gets compromised over the long haul? We've just gone through this whole process that works silently, invisibly, perfectly to keep us alive every second. But what happens when it gets damaged by the very thing it's designed to do, by the things we breathe in? The consequences can become very, very visible. Let's look at what the findings from X-rays tell us. In a non-smoker's lung, you see what you'd expect. Thick, healthy walls in the alveoli, good transparency, normal cilia. But then you look at the comparison. In a smoker's lung, those same walls are described as thin and feeble. There are traces of emphysema. The cilia are damaged, and that transparency is gone, replaced by an opaque haze. The damage is a direct assault on the very structures we've been talking about. And this is the most devastating difference of all. It's the bottom line. On one side, healthy tissue. And on the other, when the system's defenses have been worn down for too long, cells can begin to grow out of control. It's the end point of all that gradual damage. So from a simple muscle contraction all the way down to a complex chemical exchange that's driven by pure physics, your respiratory system is just a masterpiece. It's a piece of automated biological engineering that performs millions of perfect actions for you every single year, silently in the background. And that really just leaves us with one simple question. Isn't a masterpiece like that worth protecting?